But in the meantime, let's introduce our reason of why we thought that this was necessary and appropriate.
So we are just coming together to bring all of our viewpoints, our experiences, to give Black women the alternative thinking and just giving them information that we need to survive and thrive.
There's so many things that are avoidable, and through the work that we all do, we come in contact with these ladies, and we've just decided, you know what, enough is enough. We have to share this, these experiences that we have. We have to share this knowledge that we have. We have to go out there and help and save our sisters.
Welcome to another episode of Lead, Teach, and Style. And I am your sister, Nora Muhammad. I'm so glad that you have joined us and you are back this month to hear what your sisters are talking about.
I am Shabri Muhammad.
And I am Nicole Muhammad.
And again, I'm so glad that you have joined us and you're back with us. And I hope you enjoyed last month's episode of Lead, Teach, and Style. It was a very fun conversation that we had. And I think that was a conversation that is long overdue, especially as it pertains to Black women in media and in the Black community. And this week, we are back to talk about guiding principles and what that means and how we should form them, where they come from, and how we apply them to our lives. So, Shabri, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, I hope that, we can point out some areas where people already, some areas in life that they already participate in where they can gain guiding principles from. And maybe we can give some that we use in our day-to-day life, getting through the struggles of life, getting through difficult situations. We all need those guiding principles, those things that we believe in, that we use in any situation that help us, that help others. So maybe we can help you, trigger something in you that we use, or help you look for your own.
Wonderful.
I think this is just a wonderful and universal topic to bring up, and I'm just so excited to be talking about it this evening. I think anytime we're moving in life, anywhere we go, any arena, there are guidelines and rules, and just as that works out in the world, it's important that we have that as individuals, and each of us have a set of internal guidelines and an internal compass that we use to maneuver in terms of our behaviors and just the way we move and live.
Yeah. So for me, it's always helpful when I'm preparing for any subject, talk, class. I always, for me, I like to start with an outline, or in this case, the who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? So the what, we're talking about guiding principles. And just for definition's sake, I'll share this with you. Guiding principles are rules or values that we live by. And these rules and these values help us with our decision making. They help guide our actions and our behaviors. And, many of us may have lived 40, 50 years and never really thought about what are our guiding principles. For me, I'll say, coming up, my family, we didn't necessarily talk about in a formal way guiding principles, but I was able to observe my family and what was important to them, what was not important to them. For example, gossip, that wasn't something that was important to my family, but helping others was very important. So as I grew up and became an adult, I was able to latch on to those principles and those values and the value system of the family that raised me in understanding what's important and what's not important, what to go to and what to stay away from. And so that's how I was able to, grow up and develop my guiding principles. And I was able to latch onto them. And, fortunately, they've helped me be successful in life, but in some cases, family members may not discuss this. They may not have as lofty principles, we'll say, and they're raising children and bringing people into the world who may not be principled, who may not have values. And that can really cause a problem, not just in families, but as these people come out into the community, they can have adverse impacts on others because they do not share values, they do not have guiding principles, and they don't have general rules that they live by.
Yes. And it's quite important too to have them before you get into a difficult situation. Like, you grew up knowing these things as a child. You may not have had the opportunity to fall back on them until you became an adult and found yourself in a difficult situation. That's why I think it's so important that we do this show, because, for me, it didn't come from family, but it came through experiences. It came through, making bad decisions, really, and learning from them and saying, ooh, that's not a good thing to do. That's not a good idea. And sometimes, even having children and having a family of your own, when you love people unconditionally, you decide, you know what, I'm guiding this family. I have a role with this family. I have to institute some principles so that we are successful, so that we, stay positive, and that I keep them on the right track. So, sometimes through experiences, we don't want to get in such a bad situation that, we have to dig ourselves out of it and figure it out the hard way. But that also happens. And I think that's part of my experience with laying down some principles that I would like to, teach my children and my grandchildren, and, lay down for them prior to getting into a difficult situation, or just the challenges, like I said, of everyday life, having something set already to help me, get through a tough or a difficult time.
Sure.
I think you ladies bring up a very important component in terms of just relationships, experiences. Sister Shabri, you just mentioned about instilling in your children, and Nora, you talked about your family. So that highlights just another, we talk about family a lot here, and the significance of family, and being in a position to be able to cultivate another person coming up, whether it's your child, someone you have influence over, a niece, a nephew. There's such, or a mentor, someone in the community, and another person, could even be a peer who's had some experiences that you have not. But it just shows the significance of having these relationships with other people, and having the opportunity to implant values, self-respect, decency, honesty,
Right.
accepting responsibility for our actions. We may not, and we will not always make, the quote unquote right decision, but it's important that we own up to it, whatever it was, and accept the consequences, and take whatever we've gained from the experience and do better the next time.
Yes.
Very well said, Nicole. And you went. We're talking about what guiding principles are, and you talked about some right there. Some people say, well, so what is a guiding principle? Could you give me an example? Courage is a guiding principle. Honesty, respecting self, respecting others, excellence, and being committed to whatever endeavor, area of life you are in. Whether you're in school, it's employment, parenting, cooking your dinner. So being excellent, being committed, and so these are a few guiding principles. And Shabri, did you want to say something?
Yes, some people in their upbringing too, they receive them from religious institutions, and I think that should be, part of the responsibility of the religious institution, whether it's church, a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, or, wherever you practice, any kind of spirituality, and those core beliefs that you have, that they're also teaching you, what are those core beliefs that help you, and help you just get through life. I think that's one that we want to make sure that that is a great source to get principles from for the rest of your life. And I find that when I speak to a lot of young women, and I see that they're not making good decisions because their outcome is just not good. And maybe they just didn't know. I find that they never had any foundation of principles. They just didn't know. They didn't go to church as a child. They didn't have Sunday school. They didn't go to a mosque. They didn't go to a temple. They just didn't know. And then it's not the responsibility of the school, it seems like. So I do find that some people, they don't have religion anymore to fall back on. So that's another reason why, we have this show. And let me add one example of a guiding principle that I think is great for everyone. While we're going through our day-to-day and making sure we have what we need to survive and our loved ones have what they need, we should stop and be charitable. Just make sure that you are spreading what you have to at least one other person. Whether you're volunteering or whether you're just making a donation, always take of what you have and help others who are in need.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And I think that's something that is its own reward. I've come across a quote recently, doing good is its own reward. And it's so true. Or being virtuous is its own reward. And, people call it karma, whatever we want to call it, it definitely pays dividends doing good to others. And so in talking about the what guiding principles, and you shared one, Sister Nicole shared some as well. And you touched on this, Shabri, the how, right? How are guiding principles developed? I shared, for me, I followed the lead of my family and what was important to them. Some people, as you said, they get their guiding principles from the religious institutions that they attend and that they are affiliated with. Some, as you said, learn from mistakes. Oh, that isn't the outcome that I want. So I think it's critical, especially for our community, to consider the outcomes that we want and what can we do, or what rules can we live by, what principles can we live by to foster the outcomes that we want, because we don't always think about what outcomes we want. And certainly doing good can produce good outcomes. And doing bad to others is going to produce outcomes as well. So thinking about the kind of outcomes that we want in our daily life, for the longevity of our lives, the outcomes we want for our children, for our communities, they can help us determine the guiding principles. And one other thing I will add is being observant of others, right? Nicole mentioned relationships and being able to observe others and their outcomes, and what do they value? And this can come actually just by studying and watching a mentor, by watching somebody who you admire, who's in a place or a position that you want to be at some point in your life, watching what they do, right? I know I have young sons, Shabri, I know you do as well, and they're really into fitness right now. Right. So what they're doing is they're studying people who are physically fit in a place that they want to be and seeing what are they placing their value in, right? It's nutrition, it's constant exercise and commitment to it. So being able to watch and observe others and see what their outcomes are, you get an inkling into what their values are, right? And so I think that's just something that I wanted to add in terms of how, because as you said, some people aren't raised in church. There's a new generation that's coming up that's not necessarily raised in church. Like many of us, I remember used to go to Sunday school every Sunday. Some parents, some families are, dealing with other things and helping the child learn values or instilling values. That's not, part of the conversation or part of the family culture. However, there are ways for us to identify values that we want to apply to our lifestyles.
Very great points. I just want to take a step back. I think that outcomes, though, is very, very significant in identifying those. But I've seen also with a lot of people and young people that they don't even know to have a set of principles, or don't have any idea of what kind of outcomes, they want in their lives. So I think it's important for us to also, and just for people who don't have any, or just maybe confused, or just aren't sure, haven't given it enough thought to what they want in their lives or don't want. So, it's just important to think, first of all, that I should have some kind of guiding principles that, help to ground me and ground yourself, as well as thinking about what do I want? And just as important as what you do want in life, maybe you want a nice family, you want a certain career or a profession, the things that behaviors and actions that can contribute to you getting to that point, and identifying those that are going to take you away from that, especially if you're already engaging in behaviors that will definitely increase the chances that you won't be able to achieve. So I think it's good. You mentioned your sons being very interested in, nutrition and fitness, to really tap into and explore positive things that may be of interest that we can pursue and work towards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. So how, right? We talked about that. We talked about the what. When do we apply our principles? And I it's so important first that we have them, because when we find ourselves confronted with stress, with challenges, we want to remember who and what we are, because our principles are our foundation, right? So we're going to respond based off of our belief system, based off of our value system. So if we're met with disappointment and we value honesty or we value confidence, then that means that I'm not going to go and tell somebody's secret because I didn't get the position or the promotion, right? Because I already know who I am. I already know what my values are. So when we're confronted with stress and strain, with winning and success, right? Because success is also a challenge. How do we respond when we win? How do we respond when we're successful? And that's as important as responding appropriately when we're under strain. So the importance of having a foundation is so that when we are when we are confronted with everything that life brings us, then we are already pre-programmed based on the value system that we have in how to respond. And the audience who this show is targeting, you're familiar with this. People may say, a woman may say that, my mouth is going to get me in trouble today. I'm usually nice, but my mouth is going to get me in trouble today. Well, if you're usually nice, you should always be nice. Like, who are you? What is your character, right? Do you shift? Are you a shifter? Are you this sometimes or that sometimes? Or are you steady? Are you committed to the value system and the foundation that we are developing for ourselves? So, and that's important. Because I'll tell you, I've seen people under strain and I thought, oh, I didn't know they were that kind of person.
Yes. They should be universal. They should be universal. They should be principles that really could help anyone. So it's great to share them. When you use the example of, oh, my mouth's going to get me in trouble today. Well, not today. If your principle is that I don't use my mouth to tear down, or I don't use my mouth to get me into trouble, then, when you get in that situation as a person with that principle, maybe you shouldn't say anything. Don't let your mouth get you in trouble that day, because that's one of the principles that you guide your life by. Others may guide their life by something else. And then another thing I wanted to add is that we're never too old. We're never too old to learn new principles. Life is ever changing. And we get into situations maybe we hadn't been confronted with before. And so when to use them, maybe we didn't have that principle before, but as we see people and, I was even thinking of certain jobs that you might have, like as a caretaker, a caretaker, a teacher, a doctor, these are some really giving careers, some really giving jobs that we have sometimes. And we learn to take care of other people and how to give ourselves, give more of ourselves than we're taking. And so the outcome may be to realize, tearing people down, for example, by using my mouth. That's not a good thing that I want to live by. I want to make sure that I always keep that in check, that I always keep that in control. So, they should be universal so we can pull them out at any time we get into a situation where they apply.
Yeah.
And we should never be too old to learn some new principles.
Yeah, when we have a good foundation, even when the stressful situations occur, which they will, we're guaranteed the ups and the downs, the challenges and the triumphs. So when we do have them, what comes out should be that strong foundation. If it wasn't there, if it's not in our character, then it's still not going to come out when we're in those more adverse situations. And I think one of the other principles that is universal for all of us to practice is gratitude. And that's regardless of who we are, regardless of the situation, whether we view it as something positive or negative, anything that we're going through, it's always important to take time to consider what I do have, what I'm thankful for. When you're alive and you still have another opportunity for something better, to do better, to become a better person. And you just can't go wrong being grateful. And even when we have a challenge, it's also important to look at, well, what's the lesson in this, or potential lesson that I can find? Even when it's something very difficult, how can I use this to better myself, better my understanding of the situation, better understand how I can improve under pressure? There's just a host of things to think about when we're faced with challenges, and there's always something that we can, be grateful for, as long as we're, living and breathing and have the opportunity for another chance and another day.
I love what you said. I was thinking humility, right? Being humble, right? So, and the reason, the why of this conversation is just what, you said there, Nicole, so that when we are confronted, it's already there. It's already instilled in us. So whether I win, I'm humble. If I lose, I'm humble, right? If I win, I'm grateful. If I lose, I'm grateful, so that it's already there. Sometimes, many of us, when we're met with adversity, and adversity will dig out what's there. When we're met with adversity, sometimes we don't know what to do, how to respond, because we don't have a preset for that, right? And so if we already have a preset for that, then we are always prepared. And that's sometimes how we get ourselves in a pickle, is because we don't have a preset, So we react, or we explode, or we act in a way that's ill-advised towards success or towards prosperity. And we think, man, how did I get myself in this? So, just having that gratitude or deciding I'm going to be a humble person. And then you may say, what does that look like? What does gratitude look like? It sounds good. So sometimes we do have to go to someone else and see what that looks like, or talk to someone who appears to be pleasant, appears to have gratitude, appears to be humble, because these are words and they look good in the dictionary, but we may not know what they look like when applied. So we may be thinking that we're being humble, I'm humble. Well, that didn't sound humble. I hear what you're saying, but that didn't sound humble. So sometimes we need a dress rehearsal. We need to see what that looks like. We need somebody to kind of walk us along, because all of these things sound nice, but unless we see it, we may not know how we can apply it for our day-to-day life.
Right. And like with anything, we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to make the best decision all the time. But if you just have a foundation of some things and some ways that you want to handle situations when they arise, I know, in speaking about a lot of things that we do, if we, just put forth our best effort in anything that we do, even in making decisions, that can be in anything that we do, whether it's sports or any kind of activity, if it's at work, anything that we put our hands on, a craft, a hobby, that we give our best effort. I think that's very important for the young people who sometimes may not realize how important effort is. The goal is not to be mediocre, but to just try, always try hard. And so, me saying in the beginning that we're not always going to make the right decision, if we always try to do our best, then we'll make the best decision that we could have made.
Yeah.
And another point, just even looking at you two ladies, is just the significance of surrounding yourself with positive people and people of good character, so that you even have other people in your life that you can bounce ideas off of. You said you may not know what humility looks like, or another trait or quality, but if you have people in your life that you can trust and that are striving to be the best person that they can be, and have just good quality, good character at their root, then you can trust and ask. We can't always do everything alone. It's important to have others, reflectors, and people who can give you honest feedback. And then we have to be willing to accept it, even if it is difficult to hear. So also definitely surrounding yourself with trustworthy and positive people.
Yeah, Lead Teaching Style, LTS, as we call it, it is a program that has the Black woman, which also means the Black man, the Black child, the Black family, as the Black woman in mind. And we've seen our sisters have outcomes that we know they don't desire and are not intended. And so much of that comes down to how we're conducting our lives. And if we don't have a foundation, guiding principles, rules, or values that we've chosen to live by, and realize that there are some values that we have that aren't good for us, that we have to dispossess ourselves of. We have to let them go, so that we can have the kind of lives that we want. And, we're talking, Nicole, just thinking about gratitude. Some of us may not have very much, but boy, if we have gratitude, if we have gratitude, we see our blessings, we count our blessings, and we put ourselves in a position to receive more blessings. So it's so important that we have a foundation, so that as we are guiding our lives, guiding the lives of our family, our children, that we can make good decisions because we know better. It's very difficult to make good decisions and have quality outcomes when we don't have information. So we encourage you to share this program, Lead Teaching Style, with the women and with the girls in your network. If you're a brother that's listening, we thank you for your support, brother. We encourage you to share this with your daughter, with your nieces, with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your mother, with your auntie, and let them know that there's a few sisters that are bringing a competing message, because our goal is to elevate the Black woman, which means the Black family. And this conversation about guiding principles is something that's going to benefit us all.
Yes. Don't procrastinate. Do it today. That's one thing that I'm learning now, as we talk about learning new principles as life goes on. I'm practicing myself out of being a procrastinator every single day, because I know it's no good for me. It's no good for my children to see. It's not something I want them to grow into, because they've witnessed it, growing up. But in this point we're making today, and gaining some principles that, they are good before you get into any situation, they're good in any situation, grab hold on some of them today. Don't procrastinate.
Yes.
Yep. And as you said earlier, it is never too late. You can it's never too late to improve yourself, and not just for yourself, but for others. There are always people watching, people who you are conscious of, like your children, and just other people who can, benefit from each of us being the best that we can.
Yes,
Right.
yes. So I'll share something I'm working on. So it happened to come with the new year. I don't make New Year's resolutions, but this new behavior that I have has come with the new year. When my mail comes in, I either shred it or I address it right there. I don't let it sit. And you know how mail can pile up, and mail
Yes.
can take over an entire home. So it's handled. It goes where it needs to go, whether it's the trash, the shredder, it's handled. And so that's something that I'm working with, is like you said, it's never too late to apply something new so that we can continue improving our lives.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to you coming back and joining us next month for another great episode of Lead, Teach, and Style. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Lead, Teach, and Style. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at LeadTeachStyle. You can email your questions and comments to LeadTeachStyle@gmail.com and subscribe to the Lead, Teach, and Style YouTube page. You can find links to all in today's show notes. And don't forget to drop us a rating and review on iTunes.